Words are not powerful. Are they? Are they not? What does this really mean? A lot of people say, watch what you say. Words are so powerful. Are they as powerful as people say they are? There's more to it than that. Hey, it's Gary Coxe, business and life strategist, and I want to share with you some concepts of understanding how we program or rewire the way that we think, and how words, yes, they're powerful, but there's something more to it that gives them what you think is power. So the concept today is going to be based on two major sentences or thought processes. One is my brain, you want to write this down, this is really, really important to remember. My brain will validate all of my beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. My brain will validate all of my beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. What does that mean? What that means is when a person says a word, let's come up with a statement. You've seen people, they'll say, nothing ever goes my way. Most of us have said that from one time or another. Now, if someone hears you say that and they say, don't say that, words are very powerful. Well, it's not necessarily those words when you say nothing ever goes my way. It's the validation of that. Here's what I mean by that. When a person says nothing ever goes my way, if that is a core belief, not just the words, but if it's a core belief, what happens is my brain will validate all of my beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So the moment you say, nothing ever goes my way, the moment something happens in your mind, not the words, but the moment something happens in your mind, when something bad is perceived and you say, nothing ever goes my way, your brain will validate those words by saying, see what just happened? It's not the words, but it's the validation of those words. That is so important. For example, I don't mind saying, yep, that's a problem. And somebody would say, no, say it's a challenge. I don't give a crap. Here's the other thing you need to think about. Here's the other concept. To me, a problem is a challenge. I don't go, oh my God, this is a problem. It's a challenge that can be fixed. When you look at words, this is the next statement that you want to be really focused on, because this is so true that most people forget when they think words are so powerful. Words, and I'm not saying they're not, again, it's the validation of the words, because you can say a word, it doesn't bother you. I can say the word and it bothers me. Words have no meaning. Words have no meaning. Words have no meaning other than the meaning we give them. This is so true. Words have no meaning other than the meaning that we give them. What does that mean? Well, that means if you say something is a problem, in your mind, your communication of that word problem means it's a problem. Well, for me, when I say problem, I look at it as a challenge, or maybe you look at a challenge as a problem. The bottom line is, it's not the word, it's the meaning you give to the word. And when you understand this, it enables you to be a better communicator, because I'll hear people say, and you hear it so often, especially people that are into personal growth, and I am too, and I'm not diminishing that, because I mean that my life has evolved around that. But if they don't have a lot of knowledge, you'll say a certain word and they'll go, oh, don't say that. Again, it has nothing to do with the word. It's the meaning that you choose to give that word. And are you allowing that word to validate things? So I am cautious about the words I say, not because of the power of the word, but I'm looking to see, is it validating something and validating a belief that's making my situation worse. Here's another example. If my brother, for an example, he always used to say he's the black sheep of the family, the black sheep of the family. So when somebody believes something like that, the black sheep of the family, what that will do is if somebody else in the family is gifted or gets something, that person, like my brother, would say something like, well, I'm the black sheep of the family, and that's why I don't get something like that. Whereas if he looked in his life and saw the things that he got, he's only focusing on the fact that he believes he's a black sheep of the family. So when something doesn't go his way inside of the family, he will validate it. Your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So the moment he sees that somebody else in the family gets or has success and he doesn't get that, he'll automatically say, see, I'm the black sheep of the family. I remember one time there was a hurricane that came through Florida, and it destroyed a lot of his stuff, a lot of other people's stuff. And because of that, he used that as an excuse, see, nothing goes my way. And the example I give often with this, and I think you could relate to this, is let me give you one more statement before I wrap up here. You are the sum total of everything that you've ever experienced. You are the sum total of everything that you've ever experienced from the day that you were born to this very moment. And here's the challenge with this. The challenge with this is because of the things that we've experienced, who we are is a sum total of the things that we've experienced. And that is arrangement of everything from the religion, like the cult I was born in. It created a lot of beliefs that I had to destroy. The books that you read, whoever raised you, the culture you were raised in, and this makes you who you are. At the same time, though, if I got a video of the day that you were born to this very moment, and it was uninterrupted, do you think I could get 3 minutes out of your entire life of your video and put together a 3-minute video that if you focused on, in that 3-minute video, it's all the negative, crappy things that happened to you? And you looked at that video, and if you keep repeating and watching that video, which many of you do, you'll watch that video in your mind and you'll replay the BS and all the pain. On the other hand, we could still take that entire video of your entire life, and there's no doubt that we could pull out 3 minutes of incredible inspirational things that happen in your life. And the question is, which video are you choosing to focus on? And I have to be very careful myself, because if you don't know my story, my wife and I, we had a baby. She tells me it wasn't mine. Devastating. My grandfather and stepfather died of cancer. Uncle killed in a plane crash. I was born and raised in a cult. Leave that. And after you leave that, your so-called friends and family will shun you for the rest of your life, treat you as if you're dead. My father was murdered. So there's part of my entire life. And if I focus on that all of the time, and I'm always focusing on my losses and all my pains, then every time something negative that I perceive in my life that's happening, I will validate, see, nothing ever goes my way. So I can change that by saying good things happen to me. So what I do is when something good happens to me, I make sure I emphasize that and say, wow, good things happen to me. Because if I don't do that, I'll constantly focus on the pain that I've experienced in my life, and many times it's still very raw if something negative happens, and I have to be very careful not to validate it. So, in conclusion, don't ever forget, your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So you want to understand how you're validating your beliefs throughout your day. How are you validating empowering beliefs? And how are you validating beliefs that are really not working for you? And the last thing that we focused on, words have no meaning other than the meaning that we choose to give them. Words have no meaning other than the meaning that we choose to give them. So remember that and the validation is what makes words powerful. So the word in and of itself is not powerful. It's the meaning that we give to it and how we validate it to either suppress our success or empower our success. I'm out of here. Subscribe if you haven't. Look forward to learning more about you. And I'll get to reply to many of your comments and see what your thoughts are on this. I'd love to see how you've been validating some of the good things in your life and also some of the negative things so you can stop doing that. I'm out of here, and you know what to do from here on out. And if you don't, it's the title of one of my books, Don't Let Others Rent Space in Your Head. Till the next video, have an awesome day.